Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome in another online session here. And in this particular session, we'll talk about memo writing and letters, formal letters, and letters that needs to be written in at workplace and where they're extremely important to know how to make its language formal, how to make it more appropriate for the readers and for the receivers. So let's discuss this topic here. See, here we need to understand that memorandums are something that memorandum has been derived from the term memoir, where it means to make memory of. So memorandums are written, and this is a communication that takes place within the organization, inside the organization. And memorandums are written for the formal use of a language which is considered as important for the organization, inside the organization. And of course, it has a purpose, a predefined purpose. If any organization wants to make an announcement, maybe, or wants to issue a notification, maybe, or if maybe a new employee has been hired, so a notification is sent. Nowadays, by the way, the culture has been changed, or just switched to from the hard form memorandums to soft form, and the memorandums has been taken over by the email writing nowadays. So everything is sent through an email address. However, there's a use that exists in the organization where memorandums are written and encouraged, because memorandums, they become the part of at times they become the part of the files, right? A memorandum is written, and that memorandum goes into different files, different departments, for instance HR, and then admin maybe, right? And then accounts, maybe the personal file of an employee. So memorandums are something, they're considered as important documents, and it is done inside the organization. And it is at times a short message, a short written formal message, which is sent from the top-notch management to the lower management. So it is upside down communication that takes place here. There's one point that we need to remember, that is that in memorandum we never use any salutation. Salutation is missing, and this is the only difference between letter writing and memorandum writing. No salutation is used in memorandums. All right, so this is actually the format that we use. Use a standard font style that's Times New Roman or Arial. 12 point font is the size, and single spacing within a paragraph and double spacing between the paragraphs is given. Of course, this is something about the formatting. This particular term here is extremely important for all of you: block style format. Block style format is a style of writing, formal writing, and we usually write all our official documents, official messages, or all messages that we send from one person to another. They're considered as, the block style format is the style where we keep everything on the left hand side, starting from two and ending at the signing of words like yours sincerely. Everything is on the left hand side, right? Nothing is left indented, everything is left hand side, and that's considered as block style format. And this is the only style that you need to remember. There are different styles, by the way. There are semi block style format, there's a full block style format. There's a long list. Getting in such styles, you will be lost somewhere else, right? So the way out, and we need to keep things simple here, that you need to remember block style format where you keep everything on the left hand side, right? All right, this is the typical memo heading, and the format where you start from to, from, date, and subject. Remember, this format is usually by default given in the organization. However, everything in memo heading is kept in capital words, right? Like to, you can see, and from, date, subject line, they all are caps. And the reason they are caps, because this is the memorandum heading style that we usually come up with. Memorandums could be written in different ways, by the way. It could be written in the form of email at times, or it could be written on the letterhead of the organization. So it has different formats on the other hand. This is the typical structure here of a formal memorandum writing, where you start from to, from, date, subject line, and this DS means double space, right? So to, receiver's name, from, author's name, date, current date. Okay, the date, about date, we need to remember that we need to put a date in the format that starts with the name of the month and then date, for instance, June 11 and comma 2020. This is the formal and authentic style of putting date on any official document. We already talked about it. Moving further down the line, this is the one of the solved memorandum or the sample memorandum in front of you, where you can see memo heading, memo body, and typist initial and signature. I hope you know the difference. If no, we can talk about it in the online classes. There are a few things that we need to remember about memorandums. Enclosure is the term that we at times identify, where if you want to attach something with the memorandum, you write enclosure. And if you see the term enclosure written at the end of course, you can expect some attachments. I mean, maybe a resume, maybe appointment letter, maybe resignation letter, maybe termination letter. So something must be attached with it. And apart from that, we do whatever we do here. Whatever we do here is the types that we consider here. That there are different types of letters. See, getting into different types of letters here will get you confused. However, there's one that we need to understand here, which is the formal letter writing, which is written at times either on the letterhead of the organization, or at times we write it in a formal way that is considered. Remember about the format. There are different formats they exist. For instance, I have been teaching this and I ask students that what is the actual format of writing a letter. They are still confused, sir. I mean, what to write first, what to write later on, what to add, what to delete, and what to pick, what to drop. It is a myth. So keep this question in mind to ask in the online class. That's what is actually one liner format that we can follow in writing emails and writing letters, and that is acceptable throughout the world, globally or locally. That is something we'll talk about it in online class, and keep that question in mind. Write it down somewhere else on a piece of page. So we'll talk about it. And there are a few parts of the letter writing that you already know, but of course there are some fancy terms that we need to know here. The return address and the date line and the letter address, or for instance the inside address or the person who will receive it. And apart from that, the salutation is there. Here the subject line is missing, and what the subject line is, we already talked about it. Subject line is the most important part here, right? I mean, missing subject line will keep your letter in a way that is half understood by the receiver. So subject lines are extremely important. Salutation, we have already talked about it, and we'll further talk about it. The body, of course, the complimentary clause, and the keyed name and handwritten signature. At times it is needed, or at times it is not needed. That is not the mandatory part, but of course we keep that part in hand. That is something, the block style format we already talked about. No need to talk about it in detail more. Everything, when you keep everything on the left hand side without keeping that left indented part, that is considered as block style letter. See, this is one of the sample, the block style sample written for you. See, everything is on the left hand side, right? And that is something, it is considered as the most appropriate format that one can use. These all details have already been provided, and initials at the end, enclosure if there are some. In punctuation, in terms of punctuation of the subject line or the salutation, we have a different school of thoughts here, right? So this is the first one, the mixed punctuation, where after dear Mr. Nasir you put colon, and sincerely yours, which is the ending phrase, you put a comma there. And open punctuation, where you do not put any colon after dear Mr. Nasir, which is the salutation, and no comma after the sincerely yours. However, the closed punctuation and the mixed punctuation, by the way, they are correlated with each other. At times, people put comma after dear Mr. Nasir, and at times people put colon, so that's the confusion. However, usually the common phenomena that we have is the mixed punctuation that we use in our letter writing. So always use mixed punctuation. This is the another letter here. We are not going into more details here since we are done with this letter writing. And I popped few questions. I dropped few questions there. Let's say, what is the global or the local format of writing a letter, right? Or can we? I mean, what is the basic difference between letter writing and job application writing, and of course, memorandum writing and email writing, right? These questions I want you to ask me in the online class. And on the other hand, deciding the content, deciding the objective of these official documents, how would we decide that either I should write an email, a letter, or a memorandum, or for instance, a cover letter? What should I write? What style of the official document I need to adopt, and how would I adopt that style? These are the questions that I want you to ask me in the online class, and we will have a discussion. Thank you. See you in the online class.